Hello everyone, it's Leilani. It is a beautiful autumn day here in Tokyo, and honestly ever since the US elections ended, I just feel like the vibes have been high. And I'm also feeling really good, so I just thought I'd go ahead and ride this high and film for you guys and just have kind of like a chatty video. Just kind of reminiscing because as y'all know, I have been a Toki-ho for 2 years now and I've just been reminiscing on like the certain things that kind of like shocked and surprised me when I first moved here, and things that honestly still kind of like got me shook today. If you're planning to maybe visit Japan in the future or possibly live here are just some things that kind of shocked me to maybe help other people prepare, because depending on what your background is, like it's interesting to see what will like surprise you or catch you off guard. It's all just my opinion as someone who was born and raised in the US up until I was 22 and then moved here to Japan. And a little more into my background, I grew up with a Japanese mother, so I thought that there were some things when I moved here that I was actually already kind of used to. Despite that, there were still things that like truly just shook me. So I have a list and I've separated it into 3 different categories, and the first one is just like the general social culture that kind of gave me culture shock. So the first one that just blew me away and has always blown me away ever since I was a little kid visiting Japan is the insane customer service here. Like bitch, America could never. Like the standard that they set here is just so insanely high. I honestly don't know how these people earning minimum wage can continue to be this amazing. The customer service is so freaking good, but you still don't tip here. I mean, I guess that's good for some of us because like more money in my pocket. Okay, another thing that I found kind of shocking is when people laugh, they tend to cover it like ho ho ho. And like, you know, in animes you see Japanese girls that are like that's real. If you can't tell, I love a good chuckle. I love to laugh. Bitch, I crack myself up and like I'm constantly laughing, but I feel this weird pressure now to like not laugh so much in public, which is weird. Or if I do, to like be kind of quiet and also to like cover if I'm like smiling. But I think it's like more common in the West to be like very expressive and just show joy, and like that's a positive emotion, so I feel like people don't really feel like needing to hide that, whereas like negative emotion I could understand if you're like stressed and you're like oh. That just like makes me kind of sad that people want to like cover their expression of one of the purest forms of joy, which is like smiling and laughing. Another thing that caught me kind of off guard is the amount of plastic on everything, and I know most people complain about this. It's just packaging on things that like really don't need it. It's like very unnecessary and excessive and wasteful. Why is there plastic on bananas? Like they have nature's packaging. Even if you buy like say a pack of cookies, like they have the plastic wrap and then they have like a plastic cart that it's sitting in, and each cookie is individually wrapped in more plastic. Also, like with the amount of waste and plastic, there's not a lot of public trash cans. Now that I've been here for a while, I kind of know that you go into the convenience stores to throw away your stuff because they have trash cans in there, but at the time I would just like carry my trash because I just like didn't know where to put it. You'd just be walking around with your hands full of plastic. So here's another thing that kind of grinds my gears to this day. It's not really socially acceptable to blow your nose in public. So instead, when you have a runny nose, people go aggressively, violently breathe their snot back into their lungs. Picture this, you're like on your morning train and it's Japan, so it's really serene and quiet and everyone's kind of just keeping to themselves, and you're kind of sleepy still from the night before you didn't sleep well. You're kind of closing your eyes, trying to enjoy the train ride, and the freaking G-chan next to you is just like it's so jarring. You know, I'm sure if a Japanese person goes to America and they see someone like violently blowing their nose, it'll kind of give them the same reaction maybe, but if you have snot, it's like you should get that out of your body instead of just sucking it back in. Well, that's my opinion on that. And speaking of trains, that's another thing I wanted to talk about. Anyone who's traveled to Japan, like the first thing they say is like, wow, the trains are so quiet. Especially in like big cities in America, you know that the train station and the trains are like a war zone. Like it's chaotic, but in Japan everyone's really quiet. Like you're not allowed to talk on your phone. Most people have their earplugs in, and I'm sure everyone's mentioned this as well, but like the trains get so packed, especially during rush hour in the morning and in the evening when people are commuting to and from work. It's freaking insane, and like still it's just dead quiet even though you're literally like breathing down someone's neck. It's so intimate. So that's kind of the expectation, and that's kind of like the train etiquette. But y'all, after a certain hour in the night, hell breaks loose. All those rules are just out the window. Like, this is when people get messy. Like, oh, especially during the last train, because like trains don't run 24 hours in Japan. I've seen some wild stuff. This is when people are drunk and agitated and will start fighting, or you'll see someone literally throw up on the floor. Just like what shocks me the most is just the polarity. I feel like the daytime train kind of represents like the face that Japanese culture puts out, like everyone's in order and everyone is quiet and just like in their own lane. But then at night is when like the demons come out, bitch. I don't know, I feel like train etiquette could like be a whole video in itself. There's also a huge problem with groping on the train. There's even a term for it. Chikan is when you get groped on the train, and that's why there's been women's only carts that are made here in Japan, and it happens to like almost every woman I know. Like, it's messed up. Okay, this is getting dark. So moving on to a new category, I wanted to talk about the work culture here in Japan, and this isn't getting much lighter either. Still just as dark. Back home, the typical working hours are 9 to 5, but here it's actually 9 to 6 or like 10 to 7. And not only is it an extra hour of work, but here it's kind of an expectation to work overtime almost every single day. I know in a lot of like Japanese, more traditional corporate companies, you don't leave until your like manager or your boss leaves. And it's actually seen as rude to like leave on time. Like, I remember when I first started working here, I felt so uncomfortable leaving right at 6:30. But yeah, you don't even get paid overtime either. You're just like expected to stay longer. There's just rules that you need to follow, and you always need to follow your higher up. Also, the monthly drinking parties are draining. I know a lot of Japanese companies are kind of straying away from this kind of like traditional practice, but it's supposed to like boost company bonding and like morale and stuff. That it's just like weird to go out and like get hammered with your boss, like blackout drunk. I see so many salarymen just like on the floor when I'm walking home, like that blacked out. And you think normally if you saw that you would call the cops, but like everyone just ignores it like it isn't a huge problem. But also because this like social structure and work culture is so prominent and ingrained into society, there's a lot of people that don't really adhere to this system and like feel really out of place, that they actually just completely remove themselves from society and like don't leave their house. And those people are called hikikomori, if I'm correct. I've watched a lot of documentaries on YouTube about it. Like, it's estimated that millions of people aren't leaving their home and just like completely live their life separate from society. Okay, so since that became dark really quickly, let's go into something a little lighter. I have a whole category of kind of like things that gave me culture shock with clothing. But one pattern that I noticed is that everyone here dresses for the season and not necessarily the weather. So when I first got to Japan, it was October and it was actually still really warm. Like, it was still kind of like high 70s. So me being straight from California, I was still like wearing my shorts and my tank tops, and that was like a huge no-no. Like, even though it was warm out, like people were all like cozied up in their cardigans and their scarves. Everyone was wearing like typical fall fashion. And like, I cannot tell you the first couple weeks of us like traveling through Japan, how many little grandmas were like, "Ojo-san, samukunai?" Like, girl, ain't you cold? And I'm just like, ha, nah dude, it's like 80 degrees, ha. Another thing I noticed is that Tokyo is like the LA of Japan. Everyone looks flawless. You would not be caught dead in athleisure. Like, I'm wearing leggings right now, but these are my lounge clothes. Like, I do not go out in leggings, God forbid. But something I noticed that was interesting for women's fashion is that you cannot show a lot of cleavage or like shoulder. People always wear a shirt under a tank top, and they never wear things that are like super low cut. but you can show as much leg and booty as you want. Okay, maybe not booty, but like you can show a lot of leg, a lot. And the last thing that really shocked me is the lack of clothing sizes. Obviously, this is a pretty homogenous society, so most people here have a really tiny frame, but me being on the taller end and just like in general, my body is larger, it's so hard to find clothing sizes. And it sucks because I can't really shop at like Japanese stores and like their clothes are cute, but I can't really fit when there's only one size fits all. So that's why I have to kind of stick to like Zara or H&M. And don't get me started on the shoe sizes. A lot of places sell their shoes in size small, medium, large, and double L. I'm a US 8.5 and like I don't even fit the size double L. Like, okay, now that I'm done with this, I really hope this didn't come off as like a rant or me just like complaining. It's just genuinely things that kind of shocked me and stuff that I hope that you might be more prepared for. And some of these things like might not even bother you. But anyway, thank you for getting through. I'm sure this was a long video, but if you guys are curious about anything else pertaining to like living in Japan and Tokyo and stuff that you want to see from me, go ahead and comment below and I'll be out with the apartment makeover very, very soon. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Goodbye.